Okay, so yesterday, well, I decided to take another road trip. I feel the need to mix energies around. I feel like something's very powerful about the East Coast right now. Very powerful about Connecticut, and so I was like, all right, well, I keep hearing the word Delta, and when I think Delta, I think I don't know, like a bowl or something lower down, like scooped maybe. And when I also think of Delta, I picture, I think it's okay. There's the Gulf of Mexico, but then, okay, I'm thinking too much. All right, so I decided to take this road trip because I feel like I know so many different people on different locations in the U.S. and I feel the need to visit everyone that I know, which, just happens to be all over the U.S. A little backstory, I've always enjoyed doing road trips. I enjoy new scenery, I enjoy new people, I like to people watch. I think that seems to be a pretty common thing that people like to watch other people. Um, and my mom, she loved traveling. She loved doing stuff like that. And I think just as a kid, I sort of picked that up. So so I was driving in the car. I'm in Pennsylvania right now with a couple of friends that I know, and I realized why I felt like I was going back in time. Like for a while now, I felt like I was going back in time of my childhood, as if I stepped into some sort of time warp so I could remember something about something I knew as a child that was forgotten about. It's not like new knowledge, it's just remembered knowledge. And it's like they keep telling me that I'm not figuring out something brand new. This is simply something that we have all forgotten over, all these experiences. And going back to your roots, helps to put these pieces together, and it brings us from the we call the ancients the olden days into the new, but really it's like the mesh of the two because you're remembering what happened and why it seems like we've lost something. The technology or the I don't know. There's just something about the ancients that you're like they had it down pat. Like there's something that they had that wasn't this per se. It was something else. It was just something else that they were conduits of some sort for some sort of energy. But we're just starting now to remember what that is. Okay, so they were talking to me about solution. I keep hearing solution, solution, and I'm not even sure how this got up in conversation, but they were talking about letting things sort of sit in your mouth for a while. Um, and they talk about the world's like being sexually uncomfortable with things. And, you know, I know that a lot of times I look at things and I know right away it shouldn't be like that because that doesn't make sense to me. It looks disorderly. So when I think about sex, I think of, okay, well, what are the world's issues with sex? Like, why do we have a problem expressing it? Why does it seem to be this taboo, this thing, that people tend to hide or giggle about or what? I mean, it's fine to giggle about it. I just mean, there's something about that tends to have a polar opposite. And I think, okay, STDs, we're scared of STDs. Now we need contraceptive. And people don't want to get pregnant, or they do want to get pregnant and they can't get pregnant, or, it seems like there's so much polarity in that we try to protect ourselves all the time. And it gets really confusing because it's like, I want to do this, and that, but it's like, all these measures that you have to take before you can do anything like that. And I think there's got to be something more there. Like, why is it like that? And then I go back to the age-old story, Adam and Eve, such and such. And then I think, I think about how we as a society are changing, accepting, remembering, feeling something different about the two coming together. Because I know that these people have always existed in other tribes of having both male and female personalities, body structures. I myself definitely feel like both things. In fact, I feel like a childlike spirit. I feel like a sophisticated adult. I feel like a male. I feel feminine. I feel like an animal. I feel like I sort of embody these things. And I think that helps me understand people a lot, and understand nature, and understand, science so well, because these things all reside in me. It's not just me. It's like I'm literally picking up energies all over the place, and they've always resided in me because I've always had this androgynous nature. And if you notice, even in our current reality, there is definitely a more acceptance with these things, like metrosexual men. Uh, there's also, I don't know. It's like, people freak out about guys wearing dresses, but women have been wearing pants for a long time now. We're technically always cross-dressing. And it's, why one thing is easier to understand than the other, I'm not really sure. Because I know that as a child, it was like when you went to sleep, you had a giant t-shirt, boys and girls, didn't matter. You wore a giant t-shirt, which is kind of like a dress, but, you never worried about it. These things were not a problem. No one cared about it. Everyone kind of looked the same. You were just children, and I think that's what's really important, is finding that childlike spark where you didn't worry about that kind of stuff. But then I also realized that when you get older, you become you start to understand sex appeal, and you start to understand what it feels like to be attracted, to be repelled. You start learning science in a much different way, and it's like these exotic, erotic extremes that tend to pull you in or push you away. And I think that's awesome too, because it's like now you're using human alchemy in a way, because you can feel these energies. So it's like taking both of those and putting them together, because the dualities are fun, because then you can play back and forth, like kids picking on, a kid picking on somebody else. We see this all the time. In kids, we see it in adults. I don't know how many times I've like bickered and fought with somebody, and then I ended up actually being super attracted to them. Like Tim Curry, I talked about the man who plays It. Who plays the clown in It. I was terrified of the dude, but then I found out who he was, and I was like, well, I'm kind of attracted to that, because he can play, these certain roles in movies, and he can just switch on and off, and that's pretty hot in some respects. And I think that being honest and open about what we are attracted to is definitely something that brings us much closer to love. It brings us closer to understanding, I think. It's like when you feel more comfortable about yourself, other people feel more comfortable around you. Because a lot of people, I think, feel uncomfortable expressing themselves. I feel like I feel that way because I feel like I used to not care about expressing myself, and however I came out, that's how I come out, and I lost that somewhere in the middle because I was uncomfortable with my sex appeal. I feel like it's something very powerful that, it's like a powerhouse of energy. And the way I describe that in my own way of feeling is that I find myself becoming attracted to teachers, And I think the reason for that is because there's something about the brain waves. There's something about brain waves that we pick up on. At least in my personal experience, I tend to pick up on that a lot. Like, it doesn't matter how old they are, it doesn't even matter what they look like. I mean, one time I was attracted to a 70-year-old English teacher, and it was because he had this, like, childlike spirit, because he was just so excited about teaching and learning, and he knew, like, 6 languages, and 2 of them are dead languages, and every question he always asked me, it was like he was just so happy to listen to, whatever answer I had. But he also had this, like, mischievous smirk whenever I would come up with an answer that was just another polar opposite. And he'd be like, "Do you really think like that?" It was like he knew how to play with energy in a way that was, it's attractive. And we see that in history. I can't think of any, like Socrates. No, I feel like, okay, the sword and the stone. Um, well, okay, I don't really know all the people in history, but I feel like that is a common theme, that the student will be attracted to the teacher and so on. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I don't, like, go off and gallivant with teachers. Actually, that would be kind of cool if it happened, but it never did. I just found that learning became so much more fun and easier to do when I had some spark explode in my chest that got me going. It, like, excites you and it wakes you up like a million cups of coffee. You become in love with the situation. It doesn't even have to be in love with the person or in love with the subject matter. You end up loving the subject matter just because you like the feeling of being around that person. And that, to me, that's like some serious chemistry. There is some serious science going on in there when your cells are so excited to be around another person's cells. It's like, what is happening there? And just like in my most recent video before this, I talk about the way I can feel, cells, things moving down my spinal cord, and things moving up my back, and it's like, I feel chemistry happening. Something's happening there. So when you interact with other people, you can further understand more science just by, okay, does it repel me? Does it attract me? What do my eyes like to see? Do my eyes like to see that? Am I repelled by that? Does it look disorderly? Why does it feel like chaotic? I mean, I think that if we really stop and think about what it is we are witnessing, or what it is we are feeling, because sometimes you feel it and you're like, you look around, like instinctually you feel something, and you look around and you're like, I felt something. Well, what the heck was that? So it's like we know something happened because it happened in here. So intuitively we think, immediate environment, what's happening around me, why would that happen? What could be possibly causing that? And that's the Akashic records as well. is feeling what's happening and then sitting for a minute and being like, okay, now how can I explain this in other terms? Like, how can I picture in my mind what might be happening here? Also, they were talking to me about, I actually got off topic here, the solution thing. As a child, I had forgotten that I enjoyed, this is probably awkward to talk about. It's still a little awkward to talk about for me, because it's so blatant. The idea of having things in your mouth. As babies, we teethe, we like constantly want to shove stuff in our mouths, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's all in the way that we look at it. You know, they got bottles, they got teething toys, they like to suck on their fingers, and we grow up as adults, and then that becomes super erotic to us, to have things in our mouth, to explore your bodies with your mouth. I mean, our hands, our mouth, these all have a lot of nerve endings in our, our private areas. Those are huge receptors. So it's like I was listening to Spirit tell me this, and I'm picturing about all the times where I enjoyed something like that. And I remember I sucked my thumb until I was about 8 years old. I mean, it was something that I enjoyed so much that I wasn't ready to let go of it. But then I think, I'm not saying we all gotta suck our thumbs all the time, but we smoke cigarettes. It's like an oral fixation. We enjoy gum. It's an oral fixation. We like to talk. It's an oral fixation. I mean, these are things that we enjoy doing. We like eating. We like tasting things. We love kissing. And, there's nothing wrong with these things. There's nothing wrong with these oral fixations, if you want to call it that. It's when we try to not give your mouth what it needs. Where it starts to feel a little disconnected from stuff because it's got so many nerve endings. It's like, I remember being in a department store, and I'd be like, kids, they walk through everything and they touch everything, and it's like, why not? Let them touch it. I mean, they want to explore the world around them. I mean, I still do that. I'm like constantly like, oh, that looks soft, and like you want to feel it. I mean, when we pick out clothes, we literally touch the material because we're like, how do we want does our bodies agree with this material in the way this feels to us? And certain fabrics go in and out of style for a reason. We don't like the way certain things feel on our bodies for whatever reason. That's science too. But this is something we've always known. So they were talking about solutions, so I was like, okay, what did I really like as a kid? And I remember like Jolly Ranchers, Tootsie Roll Pops, stuff like that. Candy, stuff that you could just gobstoppers, sit in your mouth, the fireballs, those atomic fireballs, warheads. We enjoyed stuff that could just sit in your mouth and you could just sort of move it around, and it almost makes you feel like more in the moment because something's going on that's sensational. Like you're just sort of stuck, you're lost in the moment. You feel like a kid again. You feel fluid. So I got some Jolly Ranchers at one of the gas stations, and I popped one in my mouth. Green apple. Love green apple. It's like that sour awesomeness. And they're like, okay, now just let it sit for a minute. And I noticed that, and this is funny because we all know this, but when I felt it again, I was like, I had not felt that in a long time because it was pretty intense. So it's in my mouth, and I just feel it like seep. It's like seeping all this saliva, like they're bum rushing it, like I imagine like little people all up in here like a stage, like a stage set, and they're just like, get it, like that's what it feels like to me. Like that's what I picture these funny pictures of them like swarming to it, like it's this awesome morsel of food, like ants, right? You drop a piece of food in a couple minutes, they're just like, get it, and they just bombard this piece of food because it's so good. That's what I picture when I picture that, and I think, dang, that is wild right there. That's totally wild, but it's totally science. It's that attractive force. Like, what is in that flavor that attracts all that syrup, that solution? Because we all know that spit feels just a little bit different than water. But why? These are the things I wonder. What is the difference? What happens there? And so then I got even more curious, right? So now I got like coffee sitting there, and I'm like, I wonder what happens if I just take a sip of coffee and let it sit in there and see what happens. And the flavor changes, the consistency changes, everything changes about everything that you put in your mouth, and you let your own solution, your own saliva, sort of like mold over it. And in that respect, you enjoy the food a lot more because it's like you can now sense all of it just by putting this liquid plasma. Like, I make connections very quickly And when I think of saliva, that solution that's in my mouth, I think this pale white clear, like clear really, like maybe a little bit of white, like that's, you know, that stuff that I talked about before, where it's like this silver, like plasma. Plasma, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. And then I think, okay, that's healing solution. When I think plasma, I think healing, like healing burned wounds, or healing something like that. Or just healing wounds in general. It's a white corpuscles. It's an oil. It feels like an oil. Like I picture this oil. I picture like a lining. And I also picture, okay, this is kind of wild. Like, you know, I picture that solution, right? When you let something, this is, okay, so you put something in your mouth, and you feel that you're excited about it because, you know, you start salivating, okay? And then you got other parts. They get really excited. They start salivating in their own way. All the parts are the same. And then you've also got the mammary. Are they mammary glands? Boobs. You got boobs. And you got solution in them too. That's a similar color. And they're all really sensitive areas, and they all have the same stuff going on there. You know, it's things like this that really make me think about it, because I'm like, there's a connection there. There's got to be a connection. It's the same colors. And I haven't really figured out the whole period situation, what that's all about. It's almost like it all used to be the same thing, you know? Something happened. Either we felt separate, or something happened where we literally created it. I almost feel like we could just kind of created it somehow, or it's processed different in that gender. I haven't figured that part out yet, but you know, I see a very big correlation with that. And these are the kind of subjects that are uncomfortable sometimes for people, but I mean, it's got to be talked about, because this is science that we don't even need to research. We just know intuitively that there's a clear connection with saliva, with bodily fluids, with, you know, the nutrition for babies. I mean, they keep telling me it's truth serum. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that is. Well, well, what I picture, well, you know what? I don't know. I don't have that figured out yet. But I know that there's something very magical about that, and they keep pressing it, like, I need to share that. So, even though I don't know all the science behind it, I know there is something very magical about that, because as a child I knew that intuitively. And I think as children, we immediately pop out the womb like, yo, I know what's up. And somehow we move through the motions of being an adult in this world, and we lose those things. Or we add things on, you know, they're little additions to the system. But I think when we really just take a look at it, they're expressions of the same. They're expressions of the same thing. That's what I feel. So that's all I have for now. Just thought I would express that. Yeah, let me know what you think, because this is really sort of embarking on a strange journey, but at the same time, it's like we always knew this. You know, it's always there. We just haven't, I don't know if we actually really stopped to think about it for a little while. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching.